Introducing the Pro 1X, a smartphone designed to put you back in control, brought to you by FX Tech and XDA.
Well, why don't we start off with some introductions? Can you guys tell me a little bit about the product that you're launching and your company and who you are and what you do? That was a lot of questions.
Yeah, no problem.
Sorry.
No problem. Let me start off. I'm Adrian, one of the co-founders of FX Tech. And for those that don't know us, I'll give a quick, brief intro as to who we are. So Chen and myself started FX Tech 2 years ago. We wanted to bring back the concept of a physical keyboard into a modern smartphone that gave the ultimate device for us in terms of productivity and functionality. Mm-hmm. So we started this journey in 2018. And last year we launched our first device, which was the Pro 1, which is this device here. So we brought it to market. We have received a ton of reviews, press, some awards, a massive loyal fan base, and really pleased with what we've done.
How massive? Can you talk about numbers? Are you comfortable doing that?
I can tell you that we've shipped individually to over 50 countries. Most of our sales have been direct to consumer.
So the original Pro 1 was Android. Was it any other OS compatible with the phone?
Compatibility, yes, but not shipped out of the box.
Oh, okay. So it's shipped out of the box with Android.
We're super pleased, with the device. It's our first product. We spent a long time refining the product to get it to how we wanted it to be in terms of, the keyboard experience, bringing that back, making sure it integrated well into the phone as a piece of hardware. Mm-hmm. We wanted it to also be a device that you could put in your pocket like any regular Android phone. So you can see from the profile here, it's got the same profile as a regular Android device.
It's a bit like this one.
It's very much like that one.
This is one of your competitors, though.
Yeah. Yes.
It's a giant keyboard on it. The Cosmo Communicator.
Yes. Yeah, we are much smaller, by the way. If we put them all next to each other, we are probably 40 or 50% smaller in total.
Oh wow! Okay.
Or weight or dimensions. It's by physical dimension, we are roughly on par with any other smartphone. We are much smaller than Cosmo, and on weight, we are also probably 50% lighter. We are on par with iPhone 11 Pro Max. So iPhone was 220 grams. We are 240, so like 15 grams above the the heaviest iPhone.
Actually, much thinner and lighter than I was expecting for a form factor like that.
And so we launched and got the device to market at the end of last year, and we've been kind of thinking or cooking kind of our plans for how we evolve and what else we do next. And so actually I think I'll kind of segue to Chen, and I'll kind of Chen introduce the concepts and thoughts behind the Pro 1X.
Right, thank you, Adrian. So this is Liang Chen. Just briefly call me Chen. It's easier. And I'm the product guy in FX Tech, and so we started the journey with Adrian. I used to love keyboard phone in my pocket. I had a Nokia N900 for a couple of years until it's dying out, and I was actively seeking for a successor because at the time I used to work for the lab, like a bit of R&D. So a physical keyboard device with Linux in my pocket is just so handy. So I don't have to carry a laptop with me all the time, and I could do all the commands very easily. People around me are asking like, how can I buy this device? Why they're not making them anymore? So since 10 years ago, all those form factors started to disappear. And it was a bit disappointing because no one started to make this. And I was talking to myself, maybe if no one makes it, maybe I should try myself. So the first chance was at 2017 when Motorola launched Moto Z and modular concept. So they hosted a kind of global event called Transform the Smartphone Challenge. They encourage you to design the concept for Moto Mods, modular accessory, to and actually I took part in amongst 1,000 other candidates, and I was the only one which came to an end. Like we passed all the tests of kind of marketing, durability, and feasibility, production. So passed everything, and I've made it into the last stage, which was the announcement on CES of 2018. So the company at the time was called Livermorium, and we actually launched that Moto keyboard mods on the stage with Motorola. So actually Lenovo they listed our company together with Qualcomm and Google, Microsoft as one of their partners. Kind of at the time, we were their only third-party partner manufacturer Moto mods, but they had a kind of internal reform on the March of that year, just before the mass production. So the whole Moto team was laid off. So which means there's no point for us, to pursue for this journey. And I met Adrian at the time, and Adrian helped we reform our brand into FX Technology. So it stands for functionality. And we started the concept and the design of the Pro One by mid of 2018. We received lots of very, very positive feedback. Lots of people like myself, I was very surprised. They said it's the first smartphone he bought for 10 years since
10 years.
900.
What do you think is appealing about this to people who are so used to these, this smartphone cycle where, okay, here's one little iterative feature and no one's really breaking any new ground, and it's just a war between thinness and specs, and what's attractive to people about your design?
For me, I think it's the control in the pocket for everything, basically, because I think the keyboard, it's not just the keyboard you look like. So for example, I could constantly comfortably switch with the on-screen keyboard and physical keyboard. Like if I want to get rid of on-screen keyboard, I just turn it, and I got the full display and without the on-screen keyboard, so which makes the usability much better. And in the meantime, I could do split keyboard, and I could typing on the two.
That right there is probably my number one pet peeve with my phone, which is just like every other phone out there. Is you are on a page, you're shopping or whatever, and you go to enter a field, and the keyboard pops up and takes up about a third to a half of your screen, and you can't actually see on the page what you're typing anymore, or where the enter button is, or anything. It's a horrible experience for something that we're paying $1,000 for that's supposed to replace our PCs,
Actually, so like that, it's not some specs on paper, but it's something I could try to find my location on the map while I'm texting to someone at the same time. So it's not possible on other non-keyboard smartphone, but that's such a big feature. I'm using it all the time, and it's all also about the control, the feeling of under control, because apparently I could easily do all the terminal jobs. I could run the script with one click. I could easily editing some Office documents with all the shortcuts like Control, Alt plus. So when we could travel on airplane, it's really small space, and I don't want to get my laptop out. But with this, I could even lay down on the airplane and do the job. So
is that the one you're holding? Is that the new one? Is that the Pro One X?
It's the Pro One. That's the Pro One X. It's a
okay. Oh, I love the back of it.
So we work into the community, and we found many people, they had similar thoughts and they have similar demand, and we actively working with the community developers. We actually support them with all the background documents, and if they found a problem with with how to run in hardware, like the drivers or something, so we also share the source code to them as well. So by doing this way, we have managed to run quite a few operating systems on our hardware smoothly and in the way of daily use. So we have Selfish OS running like native And also we have LineageOS, which is now official, and the latest version 7.1 is just around the corner. We have official for 16, and also we have Ubuntu Touch, which the founder of UBports, he said he has got the device, and he said his dream come true because he can have a keyboard to work with the terminal of Ubuntu, and we have activated the HDMI output as well. Ubuntu Touch, you can hook into a large monitor,
right?
And the touch screen itself will turn into a mouse pad. And because we have keyboard natively, so in theory you don't need any accessory. You could just connect it to your big screen, and you have the keyboard and you have the mouse pad as well. So
wow,
that's something very unique and special. And the founder of UBports, he just said, our specs, it's still the best amongst all the devices they use. And it's just their dream for the last 10 years, like I do as well.
I would imagine that this is probably a developer's dream phone, and there are, I mean, when we talk about Linux phones, and granted, I know that this will ship with will it ship with LineageOS?
Yes,
and Ubuntu Touch,
and
so
Ubuntu Touch OS.
So people can choose, or will there be kind of a dual boot possibility there?
We are actually working on the dual boots. We have made progresses, but
okay.
I was thinking, if as a starting point, if we promise it's a single OS, but it's very easy to flash. So it's kind of you boot into bootloader and fast boot, kind of one-click flash process. But dual boot is something we are working on at the moment. So that was one of the reasons our Pro 1X we decided to double the amount of the storage. So which means you have half and can put one OS on each of the partition.
When I talk about Linux phones, purpose-built Linux phones with my community, I would say that the majority of them are talking about Pine 64, right?
Yeah.
And I love what Pine 64 is doing. I think it's for the price.
I got one as well.
Nice. I mean, for the price, it's a fantastic phone, right? But it's not. It's still a tinkerer's phone. It's still not quite up to a. Yes, it's affordable, but it's also not. It's not a phone that I want to use for everyday use because it just doesn't quite have the power and the storage and the functionality.
Exactly. This is something we want to improve as FX Tech, because I want to have something not working as a secondary phone, and something in my pocket. I'm willing to use it as my primary phone. So we're not honestly, we're not using the cutting edge 120 hertz, super bezel-free, beautiful screen.
That's okay.
But our screen is more than capable. We still have a very nice, vivid color AMOLED screen, which is if you put each other as a Pine phone, it's miles better. And Pine phone, because they want to have the drivers, open source. So they use. So they use a kind of very, very, very entry level chipset, which it's good to be budget, but it's not capable, in my opinion, to run some of the modern components. Especially if you put on Ubuntu Touch, you have the container of Libertine, and then if you run LibreOffice or something, so we need a bit of certain power on it as well. So if the user experience is not good and it's not attractive to more, the community as well, because apparently people think, oh, this is so bad. The screen is, 10 years ago. This is outdated. And
on that note, when we're talking about community, you guys have partnered with XDA developers on this particular phone. What is it about XDA that drew you guys in?
XDA, actually, from my memory, they started on Windows Mobile back to, 15 years ago now. I'm showing my age now. But it was, when I was a user myself, a power user myself, it was like a home to solve all the difficulties for everything, basically. If you want to, active something was hidden by the OEM, or if you want to, change the radio. But it was something in my heart. when you want to change something, you look up on XDA. So nowadays they work with LineageOS, and the way Lineage works is they bring the long-term supports to the devices, which is no longer supported by OEM or by Qualcomm and Google. It gives the longevity of your device. If you can use the device much longer if you really love it. One good example was the Motorola Droid 4, which is released 10 years ago, and they still receive updates on the Lineage OS.
Wow.
Also one part to show how they love the keyboard as well. On the other side, it's also good on environmental because you got less waste.
I just wanted to interject something you said really struck a chord with me, and it kind of revolves around let's call it planned obsolescence with phones, right? And I feel like people would buy less phones and not be so hooked into that upgrade cycle if the operating system of the phone itself was not being upgraded in a way that it would actually slow down the older hardware, right? And so we feel that, I've got a phone that's 2 years old now, and I'm starting to feel it being sluggish, and I'm starting to feel the experience changing, compared to when I bought it. And so that's certainly an argument for Lineage over like Google's Android, right?
Other thing to add is that XDA is the place that people go to nowadays when they want to modify or change their smartphone OS. Those that are looking for a different kind of smartphone experience. And so, when we were having discussions with both the Lineage guys and also some of our contacts at XDA, we both really wanted to bring this up a notch, to really bring it out to the wider market and offer it as a device that's standalone off the shelf that you can buy without having to put someone in the situation where they may risk, doing something to their phone that they are uncomfortable with by having to go through that whole process themselves of unlocking the bootloader and flashing your OS. We can do that for people and give them the experience of LineageOS out the box.
That's awesome, because I think that a lot of people hate doing that stuff.
Yeah.
Like they don't like the tinkering. They love the end result, but they don't love the process of actually getting to that point B,
Yes, correct. Yes. And following from what you said about, reusability, the phone has been designed where it's possible to remove the back cover with some tools and to change the battery. We are.
You have a replaceable battery?
Batteries to our customers in the future.
Sold. Sold. I will. Yeah. Awesome.
Sorry, Adrian. It's not a user replaceable because I designed the whole structure using just being easy disassemble using just a screwdriver. So the screen module can be replaced in 5 minutes. It's just unscrew the 5 screen and peel it off and put a new one on it, and without any glues. And as nowadays smartphones. And after remove the screen 5 minutes, and we can peel off the back cover and where you can change the battery very easily. So there's no heat gun needed. It's just a screwdriver and probably less than 10 minutes work.
Wow. Or they could send it to you. Can they do that? Can customers do that? Just send it to you guys and have you do the work?
Okay. The repairability was one of the major concern when we designed the hardware structure as well. And, in the previous days, like a lot of phones, they had a problem on the USB ports, like the USB broke. But if that happens, you have to replace the whole main board, which including your chipset and the memory stuff. So for something like that, I use a separate mini USB board, which connects with the main board as well. So if that happens, you just replace the mini USB ports, so which costs like $2. It's also, I'm quite proud of it. It's also a showcase to see how lazy nowadays the major OEMs are, because they basically just stick everything together. We have lots of moving parts, but we have almost no glues. So it's all screens screws to put things together.
Can we get a closer look at the hinge?
Sure.
Huh.
That's when it's closed and when keyboard is opened.
Wow. That's a nice, slick-looking device. What lessons did you learn from the Pro 1 that made its way into the Pro 1X?
One of the reasons we do Pro 1X was I received quite a lot of feedbacks on the difficulty of replacing the operating system, because apparently you need to install all the Android drivers and ADB and also the fast boot and all those stuff, sometimes causing troubles locking and unlocking bootloader, because then you have to wipe out all the user data bits. So that's one of the reasons we want to use Pro 1X. We want to offer those users out of the box experience and get away the hassles of doing that.
I think for me, another thing that's quite fundamental is the keyboard and the different layout options. So when we started, we had the QWERTY keyboard, standard QWERTY keyboard, and we added the QWERTZ keyboard, the German variant, to our portfolio very soon after. And we didn't plan to do any others. I think just down to a number of factors, but there was a huge demand. We were having requests for Scandinavian keyboards, Nordic keyboards, Azerty, the French keyboard. And so we've decided with the Pro 1X that we're going to offer a few more flavors of keyboards.
Nice.
Because we want to make sure that people that use this have a keyboard experience that they're comfortable and familiar with. It's just making sure that we can deliver the right layouts on the physical keyboard. So we're adding a few more additions for the Pro 1X. About out the box, a USB-C to HDMI cable will give you the convergence experience.
Yeah.
So you've probably seen in some of the photos that Heather and the team have shared with you.
Yes.
Yeah. Those
It's
are
exciting.
genuine photos of a Pro 1X plugged into a monitor with a desktop experience.
So let's say people are not interested in having a Linux phone, but they want an Android phone, right? How would you convince them to embrace something like LineageOS over the Google version of Android that we're all so used to?
You have the choice. If you prefer the convenience from Google, you can put it on very easily. But if you prefer the ecosystem of Android, but you want to still keep a bit of privacy and freedom, and while you still have the access for all the apps, I think that's a very good way to go. And it has a very vanilla Android experience, which I myself just love it, and customizable as well. You could change the color, you change the icon, you change, which is limited on other OEM as well. And the good part is you could choose to have your super user, or you can choose not to have it. You can choose to have the Google service running on the background, or you can choose to use some open source, alternative, which doesn't collect the data as much. So I personally think it's awesome.
What's really awesome about it to me is that it enables me to actually feel like I own my phone instead of some megacorp owning my phone.
Apart from us and the Pine phone and perhaps everyone else, they lock the operating system when you purchase the hardware. I don't think that's the way it should be, because if I purchase a laptop, I'm free to, I should be free to put Ubuntu or put whatever, OpenSUSE something, or Windows,
That is pretty crazy when you think about it. I can't imagine buying like a Lenovo, a ThinkPad, and not being able to put Linux on it because it was just
that's even if you try to unlock it, you lose a lot of functions already. So like Sony devices, for example, if you unlock the bootloader, you lost all the algorithms on the cameras. So which is crazy in my point of view. But for us, we have software as a choice together with the hardware. So the user will be free to choose. If you want to use stock Android with Google certified, so you can use Android Pay, we have it here. But if you prefer to use Lineage, Selfish, Ubuntu Touch, and we have quite a few others as well, like Nemo Mobile, like some of the mainland Linux operating system also running, called Mobian, a mobile Debian, and Nemo, and also someone called Postmarket OS, which is a kind of long-term.
I'm just going to say there are other companies who launched a privacy-focused phone that couldn't actually make phone calls yet. So that's why I ask those questions. This is going to get people really excited, especially people who love to just throw a bunch of different mobile OSs on their phones.
Yes.
Does the Pro 1X have any kind of kill switches? Because that's kind of all the rage right now with, people being more and more privacy minded. What features can we expect there?
Maybe something in the future we could integrate, because in able to make kill switch, we have to collaborate with the chipset manufacturer, because that's not something we can do by ourselves. The way kill switch work on PinePhone is the chip that they're using, the all-winner A64, which doesn't have the communication module. Actually, they don't have a separate Wi-Fi module as well. So it's a very basic chipset. It's pretty straightforward. You can put a killer switch on when you add a module. So for example, they have a Qualcomm communication module on it. But on the other side, I have also a question of how the killer switch really matters, because apparently they had a killer switch with Qualcomm's communication module, but it's still a black box of that module itself. So even if you turn out it's a Qualcomm communication running separately, and so that's a wider topic we could get into.
So from a really high level, can you guys run down the specs of the phone and the price and when it launches, and when people can actually get their hands on it?
The spec of the Pro 1X, we've got a 5.99-inch AMOLED display, a Qualcomm 835 processor. The storage and RAM, there are two options. There's 6 and 128 or 8 and 256. Just going around the device, we have a dual SIM slot, stroke external storage slot. They're both hybrid. Fingerprint scanner, 3.5mm headphone jack.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Sorry.
A USB-C quick charge 3. A Sony IMX363 dual sensor at the back for the camera. I think it's 64 key keyboard. The options are going to be QWERTY, Quartz, Scandi, and unshifted QWERTY.
And dual speaker, and you don't need a pin to remove the SD card slot, so you can just pull it out.
So the very early bird price is $499, $649 for the 6128, $719 for the 8256, and then we have some other limited editions there as well in terms of engraving or super early delivery before Christmas.
So I could, for example, have Linux for Everyone engraved on mine if I wanted to.
Yes, you could.
Right?
You have JE, Linux for Everyone.
Nice. That's cool. So the campaign is live on Indiegogo right now?
The point of the Indiegogo is really because it's a community-led platform. XDA is community as well, so this is really a chance to go directly to the community and allow people to kind of give their feedback and get it early as well. Hence the early bird prices and everything like that. So people will back it, they'll receive it.
Awesome.
Clearly the phone's been built in the past already, so it's not a team that have no experience building out hardware.
Gotcha. That's cool. And how many regions will you ship to?
Like the Pro 1, we will ship globally. Unless you're in somewhere that's very difficult for our couriers to ship to, in which case we will tell you.
It is available during the Indiegogo campaign. And really the whole focus is to sell it during that campaign and not necessarily afterwards.
The campaign's going to run for 6 weeks.
6 weeks. Okay, so kind of leading up to Christmas, right before Christmas.
Yes.
Gotcha. What if it's really successful? And
then we will see.
Okay.
But our initial plan at the moment is just during the campaign. We have plans for bigger and better things as well. So we want to keep.
What? Actually, I can respect that, because I'm looking at major video game console launches that are happening this year. And I'm looking at graphics card launches that are happening this year. And demand is so far outstripping supply that it's just a joke to even try to buy one and try to pre-order one. I think I read that somewhere that NVIDIA is only fulfilling like 7% of orders for the 3080 and 3090 graphics cards. Don't quote me on that, but it's something like that. So like props to you guys for actually kind of building in that artificial limitation to where, you know, you're not going to have thousands of people disappointed because they paid for it and couldn't get it. Well, best of luck. I'm looking forward to using it because I've been wanting a phone that kind of has all the features you're describing. So yeah. Anything else you guys want to say before we go?
There's one last point on my side. I want to give a bit more insights on the choice of chipset. It's 835. So we were asked, because that's on paper looks like 2 generations old, but so performance-wise, it's a more than capable performance. You probably know as well. Even, you know, I don't want to go benchmark because I think it means nothing. But even on benchmark, it's just by the power itself, it's on par with the 7 series nowadays, like 765G something. So it's gets like 95% of 765G, and it's a 10 nanometer chipset, so it's still very power efficient. And one of the reasons we use that is for Linux support as well, because the 835 has been around for 2-3 years, so there's a very mature drivers around, and also the mainland kernel as well. So, you know, if we put something really fancy and special, you know, you can't use Linux on it because it's too new. Everything was locked to Android. You know, Android's kernel and it's different from Linux, so they can't be compatible with each other. And the development cycle is roughly, you know, 2 years and at least. So, which is on the 835, I think we found the balance as well. You know, we got a very, very mature Linux support. Well, you still got enough power. It's still on par with all the high-end chipset nowadays. Probably wouldn't notice any difference unless you run into super heavy-duty game.
Yeah, I'm not an expert in the smartphone arena, but I don't think you need to be that defensive, honestly. No. Because I think that when you look at your competitors, when we're looking at purpose-built Linux or LineageOS phones, I think that your spec sheet is pretty high compared to the competition, which is also more expensive in some cases. So I think it's looking like it's in pretty good shape to me.
Thank you, Jason.
Yeah, we just want to build a great phone, one that you can use every day.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, good luck. Best of luck with it. I really appreciate what you guys are trying to do, and I'll get the word out.
Great. Thank you very much. Thanks for your time.
You bet. Hey, anytime.